Organ donation is an issue that we don't talk too much about. Today we're going to find a lot more about it. And joining me to tell us about it is a clinical nurse involved in organ donation. Her name is Shan Cairns, and she knows a lot more about it than we do. You're going to find out a lot more about it. Shan, nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie.
Tell us about organ donation, because we don't know too much about it.
So organ donation, I guess it's not spoken about a lot because people don't like to think about death particularly, but unfortunately it's something that's always going to happen to us. And it's only in very specific circumstances that organ donation can happen. So there's only about 1 to 2% of all hospital deaths that you can become an organ donor, and that's usually in the intensive care unit when you're on a ventilator or a breathing machine. And it's only when the doctors have no other options for you that it's definitely at end of life that organ donation could be considered, and then we'd be asking your families for their consent.
So many issues even in that statement there, but how did you get involved in this whole business?
Well, I originally was a nurse back in the day, but I still am a nurse, but I just found my feet into organ donation when I was originally working in Alice Springs, and have just progressed, come up to Darwin, and now that's all that I do. So originally intensive care, but now organ donation.
And what are the organs we're talking about here that can be donated?
Organs that can be donated are lungs, heart, 2 kidneys, pancreas and liver. Occasionally intestine, but very specific.
And I'd imagine the demand for those organs would be pretty high in Australia.
Yes, so at any one time there's usually 1,400 people on the transplant waiting list.
1,400 people?
Yeah.
And every time someone becomes a recipient of an organ, another person goes on the waiting list.
Yeah, pretty well. So I think last year in Australia we had about 1,600 people receive transplants, but even at this time we're still sitting with 1,400 people.
So you're at the end where you actually, where the transplant actually happens. What about the preventative work that needs to be done to prevent people having organ failures?
Well, that would be ideal. So we always try and encourage people to look after themselves, so to eat plenty of healthy fruit, vegetables, drink lots of water, still enjoy yourselves, so still have soft drink and takeaway food, but try and limit it, don't have it every day. Try and quit smoking if you can, same with grog, it's not good for you. Just trying to really look after yourselves.
Now, I'm not quite sure how to phrase the next question, but it's about which of those organs is more popular than the others. I mean, which one are there more demands for?
Kidney. Kidney is the one, I think it's about 1,100 people on the waiting list. So heart and lungs, probably 100 or 200 each, but kidneys, there's, over 1,000 people waiting around Australia.
And why is that? Why are there so many wanting kidneys?
I don't know. I think it's just unfortunate circumstances. The kidneys are susceptible to damage. Anything from infection to not looking after yourself well means that your kidneys could get damaged. And unfortunately, even though that there's 2 of the kidneys, they still get damaged at the same rate. So just because one's damaged doesn't mean you still have another good one. Unfortunately, they both break at the same time.
Can you survive with just 1 kidney?
You can, but it would be usually through transplant. There's very few medical reasons that only 1 kidney would stop working at a time. It's normally both of them that are failing.
And what are the signs that you've got kidney problems?
For kidney failure, you don't really see that you're at end stage or at kidney failure until about 90% of your kidneys have stopped functioning. So at that stage you would then see that you might have a bit of extra fluid, it might be a bit hard to breathe, your ankles might be a bit puffy, you might be weeing less, or you might be weeing some funny colours or some blood. But until you're at about 90% functioning, like less than 90% functioning, so 10% of your kidneys are working, would you actually see those signs? So we try and encourage people to go to the clinic and get checkups every 2 years. It's as simple as getting your blood pressure done, get your blood tested, and then you just have to do a little urine specimen. That's it. Do it every 2 years, and you can usually see that before you get to the end stage.
And if you don't deal with it and the kidneys shut down, is that the end of your life?
It's not the end, but you do have to make some big decisions. Once you get to that stage, it's either you go for palliation, so you go and you will die. You can choose dialysis, or you can choose a combination of dialysis and work up for transplantation. So dialysis comes in a few different forms, and they work out with you which one is best for you. But usually in the initial stages, they'll ask you about transplantation and if that's what you'd like to look into.
So we don't know this, but there may be people watching out there. There could be people who are talking to you who already have some problems going on with their kidneys, but they simply don't know it.
Yes, yep, absolutely. So we just really encourage people, go to the clinic, just get a checkup. It'll take you 5 minutes, not a big deal. And if your doctors tell you to take medications for your diabetes or for blood pressure or something like that, make sure you take them regularly and the way that your doctor told you.
So what's the lifestyle we should be leading now to make sure that we're not going to run into kidney failure sometime later in our life?
For everyone, it's just to eat plenty of fresh, healthy foods, drink lots of water, choose that over anything else. Water's very good for your kidneys. To try and walk places that you could probably drive, but try and use your feet instead, and just to enjoy your life. Avoid stress if possible.
When the time came that there was a kidney made available for a person,
Yep.
what happens? How's that all happen?
My team work on the organ donation side, so we would notify the team in South Australia where the transplants take place, and then they would work out who the best match is for that kidney, and then they would be notified that they need to get to Adelaide as soon as possible. So they could be catching a plane from Borroloola or Groot and then coming into Darwin to then catch a plane to Adelaide.
So I understand that you've got to transplant the kidney within 24 hours. It
hours.
doesn't leave a lot of time for someone who lives out bush somewhere to
Yes.
actually get to Darwin and get to,
Yeah.
or get to a major centre and then
Yeah.
get to Adelaide.
Yes. For us, we try and notify the South Australian team as soon as we can. As soon as we've got consent from the family to look into organ donation, we try and notify South Australia as soon as we can so they can start making plans to get people to come in.
And people who are on that flight heading to Adelaide for the transplant probably don't know it, but the kidney could be travelling on that flight as well.
Yeah, could be travelling on that plane, yeah.
Is that true?
It is, yep. And a lot of the time, particularly if it's a Darwin donor, a Darwin recipient, they're more than likely going to be on the plane with that kidney as well.
And can I ask you this, can a female donate a kidney that will be given to a male?
Yes, absolutely. Ethnicity they do take it into consideration, but it doesn't matter. So Aboriginal to Caucasian to anyone else. The only thing that really matters is blood group. So just to make sure that it's the same blood group.
Now, there's a man living over on the Tiwi Islands who's happy for you to tell the story about his kidney transplant, which we've got to say has been very successful. What's the story?
Victor is a kidney transplant recipient. I think he received it maybe 4 years ago. So he was living and working over on the Tiwi Islands, working as a school teacher there, and he became unwell with kidney failure. And he unfortunately had to relocate to Darwin with his wife and have his dialysis over here. And while he was over here receiving dialysis, he was worked up for a kidney transplant. And he received that 3 years ago and was then able to have good years off dialysis and able to lead a fairly normal life again.
And what he didn't realise was where that kidney actually came from. It's something that I understand he was very interested in.
Yes. Originally, Victor says his story is that he did get told a little bit. We can't tell everyone a lot of detail because it is a confidential process. But Victor's transplant took place down in Adelaide, but he was told that the donor was a young Caucasian girl that was killed in a car accident. But Victor understands this and knows this, but he likes to believe that it came from God and it was a gift from God, which is really nice.
And talking about road accidents there, we need to tell our viewers very clearly that people who donate these organs, in particular kidney, must already be in hospital. They must be getting treatment. It's not like there can be an accident on the side of the road and a kidney's removed. I mean, tell us.
I think that's one of the big misconceptions about organ donation is that people think that if they're in a car accident on the side of the road, then they could become an organ donor. But like I said, it's only 1 to 2% of hospital deaths. So last year in Australia, only 554 families said yes to organ donation. So that's a very small number. I think people, they just don't realise that it is only if you are on a ventilator in ICU that that's the circumstances that you can be asked about donation.
And Shan, there you mentioned families. Families have a lot of say for a person who's going to receive the kidney eventually about whether firstly, whether they can have the transplant, but just as importantly, whether someone can donate
Yes.
their organ.
We would really love everyone to talk within their families about donation and if they think that that's something that they would like, because my team and I have found we're meeting families at the worst possible time. So they've just been told that their loved one is not going to recover, and then we need to talk to them quite quickly about organ donation. And if they haven't heard about it before, it's more than likely that they will say no. And if they don't know your wishes, then they will more than likely say no. So we would like everyone to think about it now while you're fit and well and doing well, to consider organ donation and think if it fits for you and your family.
And the one other question that I wanted to ask you is, do they take the kidney out and replace it with another kidney?
No, so you end up with 3.
Really?
Yes. So they'll just plumb it back into your abdominal area. So you'll actually end up with 3 kidneys.
So there's some people out there, well, there's quite a few people out there walking around with 3 kidneys.
Yep.
Can you have 4?
Well, if you need a second transplant, then sometimes, yeah, you will.
Okay. All right. So just in closing then, our message very clearly to people is, and you made it already, but think about organ donation now, because the gift of life or the quality of life is just a fantastic thing to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. We think so. And it does make it a lot easier on your families if you are ever in those circumstances, because they know what you wanted.
And once the decision is made, what do people need to do?
Once they've made their decision and they've told their families, which is also very important, is they can go to donatelife.gov.au and register their decision there. So all you need is your name, your date of birth and a Medicare card if you have it. It's then registered, and then when or if you're ever in the circumstances, there's 5 nurses in the territory that can check that register, and they can go to your family and let them know what your wishes were. All
right, so live a healthy life. Then you might not need an organ donated to you, but if it does, there's some tips about what you should do. Shan, thanks for talking with us.
Thank you so much.